All right, I think we are good to go now. Just took me an extra couple minutes to get things set up, but I think we are good. Let me know if you experience any issues. It's probably my fault, so you can just let me know. If you could let me know, that'd be wonderful. All right. All right, so I haven't done a stream in a little while, but today we're going to just do some general designs through RenderNow and create some different things, show off some new features and ways that you can do multiple different things. But in general, I think it's always great to get some questions or anything specific that people want to see. So it doesn't look like there's many people watching right now, which is fine. But hopefully we get some more people in here and we can do some more things. So I'm also using a development build here, and just as a note, there could be something within this build that works a little bit differently than the live build that you might be using yourself if you already use the program, or if you're getting to use the program soon. Hey, Alexander. Thanks for letting me know that you can hear me. Let me know if the stream is hiccuping or anything, or like pausing or anything like that. It is telling me right now that the bit rate is a bit low for some reason. Let me see if I can change that at all. Maybe that might make things just be a little bit more smooth. I don't know if I can change that though while I'm streaming. So let's try this. We'll up it to 5,000. I'll see if that does anything. But anyways, I'm glad that you can hear me. That's a good sign. Alexander, I don't know if we met before or anything like that. Maybe we have. Have you used the program before? Have you watched any streams? We haven't done a stream in a little while, so probably not, but just curious. Okay. Oh, that's right. Sorry. Of course. I think I just didn't recognize your name as Alexander, not Alex. Got it. Awesome. Well, glad to have you here. Hopefully you can get some tips out of here. I might as well just go ahead and start doing the intro starter project. Cool. All right. Well, I might as well just go ahead and start, and I'll just start working on some stuff. But if you have any questions as I'm going, just go ahead and ask away. Trying to think if there's anything specific. I could basically just start by going through how I would start doing a typical project. But I'll just explain now what I'll probably do right now, or what I'm planning to do. And if you want to let me know, since you're kind of one of the few people watching so far, if there's anything specific that you'd like to see that you're curious about, because I'd rather talk about that than just do something that doesn't really have any relevance. So anyways, what I would probably start doing for myself within this project is I'm planning to create a custom room. So I would go to new room here and create a custom room and basically build a new room based off of a specific room that I'll probably try to find. So I'll show a little bit of how to do that. The other option is I could do a basic room where I just create a really, really basic room. But I think most people at this point know how to use the basic room. It's really straightforward, and there's not a ton of options to it. You basically can change the walls and stuff. But with the custom room option, it's a little more in depth, a little more complex. So I could show how to do that. Again, that's only if you need to create a sort of more detailed room. So if you don't need that, let me know, and I just won't go over that. Otherwise, and then after building a custom room, I would go through some of the ways into basically creating a design and how I might go about creating a design, like an actual event design. I've done in the past, I've done like receptions and sort of themed events, galas, award shows, stuff like that, or projects based off of, let's say, more LED or more lighting. So again, if there's any of that sort of thing that you want to see, like if you want to see an event that has a lot of lighting in it, or an event that uses a lot of LED, or an event that uses a lot of scenery, like all these different things are, I could focus on some of those more specific things. So 100 different ways that we could spend our time here. So let me know if there's anything specific you want to see again, and we'll go ahead and work on that. So, all right, with all that said, I'm just going to start off by creating a basic room, but I think first, real quick, I just want to find a general room to build. So let's look here in Colorado, since that's where I am, and maybe somewhere we haven't gone before. Colorado, we'll say like Denver event meeting space. I'm just going to look on Google for something. See if I can find anything good or that looks cool. Okay, I just found a random place. This is the Ritz-Carlton over here. Oops, I don't know why that keeps going to the wrong screen there, but anyways. So this is the Ritz-Carlton here in Denver. I'll see if I can find a room that we could do. I think like this room looks pretty cool. We could do something like this. So we'll just basically find some pictures of the room, and then I'll show you how I would go about creating the room. With the custom room, I'm ready to follow along. I'm interested in scenic on drape. Okay, cool. We'll definitely get to that too then. Actually, let me show you that real quick so we don't waste any time here. I'll show you just some general things with some scenery on drape. And then we can, if we kind of go through all that stuff, then we can create the custom room. So I just have a basic room here, pretty simple thing, right? If I create a basic room, go into here in basic, I might just set up the room to be a little bit larger. We'll say it's like, I don't know, 150 by 150 and 20 feet high sounds good. So from here, I'm in the top view. I've created my 150 foot room, 150 foot by 150 foot room. If you want to like double check that your room size is correct, by the way, when you're in this edit rooms option, you cannot drag your mouse as you normally would. So you just have to get out of that option. And then what I can do is just drag over the exact size here. And even though my little marker here says 200 and, what does it say? 212 feet right there, that's measuring diagonally. But up here is what I want to look at. So if I go to the right, I can see that is 150 feet. And then if I go down, it shows me up here it's 150 feet as well. So I can kind of basically just check that. Or you could go up here to this markup with your ruler. So there's like multiple ways to check if your measurements are correct. It's probably good practice to make sure that your measurements are correct whenever you're doing stuff. So you could even just leave this here if you wanted to make sure. Cool. All right, so we got that. And next, So far I'm seeing the event render background. I haven't seen your mouse. Oh, I'm sorry. You haven't seen anything or the menus you're clicking on? Oh man, I'm sorry. Yep, definitely a first hiccup of the day. All right, do you see my stuff now? My screen now, my event render. I accidentally had an image of like a placeholder image over the screen because I am a little rusty on this on the streaming right now. All right, so anyways, you should be able to see what I'm doing now. Okay, so very sorry about that. I basically just created this room, a basic room here. I did 150 feet by 150 feet by 20 here. And what I was just basically saying was that you can measure the room in multiple ways just to double check that your measurements are correct. So if I get out of this edit rooms button here, I can just drag my mouse over here and it'll show me that this is indeed 150 feet and the depth of the room is also 150 feet. So that's all good. By the way, if I'm in my top view here, I'm moving around and zooming in by using my right mouse button here and scrolling in and scrolling out with my mouse wheel. So this is really helpful when you are in the top view. You can just move around really easily by holding your mouse or right mouse button down and kind of navigating this way. And then again, measuring things by just dragging your mouse there. So those are all just some tips there. All right, from there, I'm going to play around with some scenery and some stuff like that. So there's two ways to do this to kind of play around with scenery. One is that you could go into this Add Objects button here, into Decor, and you can start dragging out objects like this. If I hit my right mouse button, by the way, while this is dragging out, it will cancel the objects, which is nice, so that if you don't want that, you can just cancel it by clicking your right mouse button. So cancel, cancel. This way you can just like look and see what the object actually looks like. Another quick note here, sorry, this might be a little bit to remember, but obviously you don't have to remember everything, just going to kind of go through things as I sort of think of them. You'll notice the red lines here in the top view. The horizontal red line and the vertical red line here are basically showing you where things show up when you add them into the project. So often when you set up a project, you want to try to make it so that your sort of stage is in this general area, backdrop is in this general area. Obviously, you're going to have setups where you might need a stage over here, and some scenery over here, and all sorts of different things going on. But this is typically just where things are going to show up when you add them through some of our systems. So if I were to add a stage real quick, it's going to show up right in the center here. Okay, so it's just kind of a center spot. You can, however, if you want to move the whole room, you can select the icon right here in the top view, and you can move the whole room by dragging it. However, I think, like I was mentioning before, I'm in the development build and some things aren't working well. All right, so now I can move the whole room if I want to there. Okay, so just a note on that. All right, so we're back in Decor, and let's say instead of adding like individual pieces of drape, so I could go to staging, I could add some individual pieces of drape like this, duplicate them and move them around. I guess it depends on what you're envisioning you want to create and how you want to do that. But I would typically just go to this build section here and go to backdrop, and then I would define how large I want the drape to be. So I could just click on this backdrop here. It'll again place the backdrop along this red line here. And from there I could say, okay, maybe I want it to be that big. I can always edit it or remove pieces later, but basically it's creating a large backdrop of drape, and it's all pieces that are grouped together. So I can change the width of it by just adjusting this. So I could say I want 90 feet of drape, and maybe I want it to be 18 feet tall. And then I'm going to place it to make sure that it stays there. When I hit the place button, it basically just means that if I click another one of these two options, that the drape that I previously had here will not be removed. So if I want to keep this, I hit the place button. Otherwise, if I add that and then if I click this psych option, it's going to replace that. So you can kind of scroll through. If I wanted to keep the psych, I would just hit place. Okay, so we have some drape here. From here, I could either add a material to it, these are just kind of like typical materials that you might find. So we just have those options. So this is like a black velvet, white velvet, gray velvet. The material is pretty subtle, so you won't notice it too much unless you get kind of close to it. So you can kind of see the material of the velvet if you get really nice and close to it like that. If I change it to like a black velvet or a white, what is this one? Oh, this is a canvas white. Okay. But what I might do is if you want to change it to a specific color later on, I might just remove this and just do the default black, and then I can change the color of it to whatever I want later. So maybe we leave it black for now and then we can adjust it later. So just leave it like that. All right, so we have our drape there, and again, so I'm kind of jumping all over the place. I'm trying to cover a number of things here. What you can do here is this is a bunch of grouped objects. So if I open the group, I can click here and go open groups. And now if I click around, it will show that all of these are separate pieces. And this is nice because then you could remove one of these, you could move one of them as well. You could do all sorts of things. Okay, that's a new thing. So anyways, that's an option you can do there. Close that. All right, so that's that. And if I go back into decor now, is there any certain types of decor that you like to use, or do you want me to just kind of show anything? I was just going to show that there are two different ways that you can kind of add decor in here, or scenery objects. But this is kind of how I would do it. I would add the backdrop probably first, and then I would start adding some scenery. So I'll just start, let's say, by showing some tiles. Okay, show anything. Okay. So yeah, so I would start by if you're kind of just concepting and trying to play with some different ideas, I think the way that I would probably start is to add a bunch of objects at once. So I'm going to go into the build section and then scenery. Also, just as a note, if you want more screen space, we have this new option to change the UI size from normal to small. So it'll just give you a bit more space within the screen so that you can work, which can be nice if the UI is a little bit too large on your screen. But anyway, so back in the scenery section here, let's say we want to do some tiles. You can also do columns, walls, drapes, even foliage. So sometimes I might like to mix different stuff. I typically don't like doing sets where everything is like one type of scenery. And that's just me personally. I mean, really up to your client and what they sort of want, but I like to mix different types of scenery items and things. So I might do, like, let's say, some tiles like this. So I'm just going to click on this tile, and then I'm going to I usually just kind of scroll the width and height to get to where I think I might want it. But again, you can always go back and edit it whenever you need to. So again, this is all a big group of objects here, and you could go in individually and change those individual tiles too. But let's say we just keep that, and what I think that I would do, say we even make more, oops, I think that didn't like that, so give me one sec. Didn't like too many tiles. I'll have to write that down as a note. This is our development build that I'm working in right now, and we're often experimenting with different things, so I think that might be an issue that we're playing with there. So we'll get that right back. All right, we're back in here. All right, so if you're going to add a bunch of scenery, and we were like adding scenery like this, what you can do is just kind of scroll them out like this, maybe make it a little bit taller. Let's say we want to place something like that, so I'll keep that there. And then what I kind of like to do is to mix and match. So I might add this, and then maybe I'll put some drape and things in front of it. So this is an option with drapes. There's only a couple options in this spot right here. As you can see, there's just 4 different options. If I change this, it's going to give me some swag. These are kind of tapered drape. These are, I think, an atomic, I don't know what you would want to call it, fabric piece. This is another atomic panel. So you can play with those, but you have more options if you go into the individual add object decor options here. So from here, I could drag them in individually and kind of place them, you know, if I wanted to play with something different. So you have more options to play with here. Move this forward. I could like do something like this. So this is kind of where I would just play. The way that I like to think about adding scenery is to, before you light anything, coming from kind of a design perspective, I like to get the shape of things first. So there's not really any lighting happening here. It looks pretty cool though, because we have a pattern in the back, and we've broken up the pattern by adding this drape in front of it, which is a cool look in my opinion. So you have this kind of eye-catching shapes happening here. And so at this point, I would just personally be kind of playing with the shape of things and kind of how it catches your eye before you start throwing lights and all sorts of other stuff at it. So for a while, I would just play with that. You can also think about where your screens might go first too. So if you know that you're gonna have a stage here and some screens, I might just be preaching to the choir here in a way, because I don't know how much experience you or anyone else that might be watching this down the road has. So it all depends on your kind of own experience and what you know works or what doesn't work. But anyways, let's say that we know that we're going to have like a screen. I'm going to go to layout and add 2 screens, and we'll say 1 screen's over here and 1 screen's over here. And I would personally too, I would probably not do fast fold screens, because I typically think that you can do more when you don't do the actual full trim kit. So if there's ever an opportunity to not use the trim kit of a fast fold screen, I usually try to not do that, because I think that you can do more with scenery, lighting, and all their stuff if you do not have a trim kit around a screen. Obviously, that all depends on the budget and what's possible, but okay. So what I might do personally then, or what we'll do here, is I'm going to use this 4th option here, which is, it's actually designated as a monitor on our options here, but it's basically a screen with a border, but you can create any size with it. So let's say we want let's do like, if we do a 16 by 9, 16 foot by 9 foot screen here, it will give us more space to do scenery. We can always change the size if we need to later. So I'll place those. Yeah, if they need to be bigger, we could do that later. But I think the bit of a smaller size is going to allow us to maybe do more scenery around the screens and stuff like that. So anyways, so again, just playing with the shape here again. If you know that you're going to have like 2 screens like this, or potentially you want a screen in the middle too, again, I would just play with the shapes of different things here. So let's say, and I might even change the graphic here temporarily, just so it's something more generic and doesn't catch our eye too much, because we just want to focus on the shape of things. Or if I even might even do something like that for now, just so that we're not paying too much attention to the graphic on it. But anyways, okay, so we have this look, and I think from here you can play around with the scenery and what you have here. I'm going to go back to decor and just try some different things. One thing you can do here now too is I'll select these objects. I'll go to the object list, and then I'm going to hide. You can hide them 2 ways. One is that you can select them and then hide, or you can open the object list and just hide them right here, and then bring them back if you want to later. So this is nice because now we can just play with some different options and bring them back if we want to keep them later. So we'll say that that's like one option. You have some, similar types of panels you could use here. Let's say in this case, in some of these cases, these are like set sizes, and they might, yeah, no problem, Alex. I definitely like to give my design input. I wouldn't call myself like a expert designer, but I've done a ton of this stuff, and over time, I think there are just a handful of things that if you try to stick to, they can really help your design. All right. So I think let me double check my. Okay, we're still good there. So what was I going to say? Oh yeah, for some of these objects, so these are all 3D objects, and we created that, or we added them with the size that is sort of on the rental companies in their library, if you will. So this one is 18 feet by 5 feet, or if I see if I drag it in here again, you can see the size of it up here, 5 feet. It actually says 19 feet. Yeah, it looks like it's actually 19 feet. So again, just double check some of these things. I think maybe it was 18 feet at one point. I'll have to double check on that. But yeah, double check those things. We made it so that you can kind of scale it up or down. Or another option to do would, if you don't want it to look squished like this, what you would do is just move it basically below the floor, and then you won't squish it. So just a note on some of these models, like if it's a fabric model, and let me see, like this one. So this is a pretty cool fabric look. By the way, if you want to get to the center of the scene or of the project, you can go back to the center by hitting the orbit view and then just zoom out a little bit. Or you can go, and that's in the keyboard shortcuts, you can find all this here. But if you want to sort of zoom in or orbit on a specific object, you hit this little magnifying glass right here, and it will zoom in on that object. It goes to wherever the pivot point is. So in this case, the pivot point is at the bottom corner. So you would go it would kind of zoom in on that bottom corner, and then I might zoom out a little bit. But this is nice because you get a closer look at the material. So you can see the material right there. But I think what I was saying is that, again, if you don't want to squish it by scaling it like this, what I would do is just kind of, again, move it below, or have something hide it. This, again, is the size that we got from the company's library. So if it is, in fact, 20 feet wide by 12 feet high, then that would be the size that you would actually have to use. And if you did drape it on the ground, then you would essentially be able to hide some of it, right, if you only wanted a portion of it. So these are just some kind of tips on, rather than scaling things and squishing them, you would kind of act as if in the real world this was draped on the ground. Again, if you were placing it low. Sorry, it's a little hard to explain. Okay, let's play with some, I just wanted to play with some other options though real quick. So again, we have these, so we could basically like drag in one of these, see what this looks like, and then kind of duplicate it. Maybe I duplicate a couple of them. So just playing with some things. And some of these, look a little funky without any lighting on them. So in some circumstances, I might just go over to lighting real quick and drag a light in front of it just to see like what it looks like. I'm going to turn this focus setting off for the moment because things can get a little blurry if I leave it on. But just to kind of see what this might look like when I do have lighting on it. So yeah. So anyways, I think personally these things have too much like texture on them, or too much what's the word I'm looking for? Too much like depth to them and visual clutter to be sitting in front of something else that has so much pattern to it. So I probably just wouldn't use these. But anyways, going back to decor, I just want to kind of play with some different things here just to see what kind of options we have. We also have these things. That one's 25 feet, and maybe we need like a 20-foot one. Or 15 feet, 20 feet, and then we could hide part of this. But this, again, I probably wouldn't use this because this has a lot of pattern in front of another pattern. It's just a little too, what's the word? Cluttery for the eye. But yeah, you can play around with a lot of different stuff here. One thing you can do too is if you do want to change the whole backdrop, and this is a good note for if you ever wanted to make a few options for your client. So let's say that your client really liked these things. Maybe they saw them somewhere. And you wanted to like use a couple of them like this. And again, I would probably, let me see if I scale these down a little bit like this. And then you would probably have to have some truss or something that these could attach to at the top, right? But what you could do for your client is you could either duplicate this so that they could see, or you could hide this and then use a different background pattern. Or what you could do is just select this pattern or these tiles and then show them what some different tiles would look like. So I could just drag in this tile and it will replace whatever tile I have there. When you do this, you usually want to make sure that the tiles that you're using are the same company. So if I were to go over to, let's go over to like Quest's tiles. If I wanted to replace Atomic's tiles with Quest tiles, it might work, but the positioning will be all off because these Quest tiles, I believe, are a different size. So there's little spaces in between all of them, as you can see now. So just a note that you can do this, but the spacing will be a little bit off. So if I want to replace atomic tiles, I probably need to do it with other atomic tiles. So anyways, I just wanted to show this because you could make a few options for your client and say, hey, if you really want to use these things, you probably would want to use a different, like a certain tile behind them that isn't so patterny or doesn't have a lot going on visually, so that it's not too busy on the eye. And honestly, most of these tiles are fairly busy. This one's like not too bad. You could probably get away with something like this, I think. And you could also create some depth too, or visual, make the visual a little bit better with when you do add lighting. So just some notes on that. So anyways, so you could do this, and then you could send your client like this option where it has this, and then you could save that, create some renderings of that, and then just really quickly you could go in and like make another option where you had that one that we had before, which maybe is something like this. And what I would do is just hide these, and then go back to the one that we had before, which I think were these, and then basically just show them this option too. So basically you're creating a few different options for your client, because of course, what client does not like options, and probably the same price, but you get a completely different look between the two. So anyways, hopefully that helps a bit. And then what I would do is, let's say you wanted to try a different look with something that's not the atomic tiles. What you could do is go over, let's do, I think in the simple logic is a new one for me. We just added this one recently, so I kind of want to play with some of these. I've never used this company in real life, but I know that some people that use the product do. So I kind of wanted to see this. So let's see. We have a number of options here. So what you could do, first I want to see what size these tiles are. So if I look at this tile over here, it's going to tell me it's 1.9 by 1.9 feet. If I change this to the settings to inches, it'll tell me exactly what it is. So it is 23.3 by 23.3. I think that that's actually the same size as the atomic. Let me double check. I think it's the same size. They're just, the pivot point is set in a different spot. So I'll keep that there. I'll duplicate this and I'll move it over to here. And I just want to check and see. It looks like it's bigger. This one is 22.5. This one is 23.2. Okay. So they're definitely not the same size. So what you would want to do with like this one to, let's say, make a wall or some columns or something like that is place the tile wherever you want, really. maybe start at the bottom. You can always adjust this, but all you need to do from here is just set the snap settings to be whatever your height or width is. So I would say 23.2. And now I can just duplicate this once, and they're going to line up pretty much exactly there. And then all I have to do is duplicate again, or what I do is hold Alt or Command, and then I just drag my mouse up and it will create a bunch of these. And let's see here. All right, once I get like a full column of them. Oops, what did I do? Once I get like a full column of them, I can replace them, or I could create a group. Let's say we want to create a bunch of these, or like a wall of them. So let's do like a column like that big. I'm going to create a group out of this. And now I can create a bunch of these. Let's see. So you can play with that. To basically find, different tiles and that sort of thing. But let's go back to here, and I'm going to, in the tile section, you can create a wall of tiles quicker this way. So in this build section, again, I'm gonna scroll over here, and towards the end, I have more like quest objects. So I could set one of these different ones. Let's use this flat one here, and then maybe we can do something interesting in front of it. Yeah, and then so let me place that, and then what you could do is go over to the quest tiles, and this is a Geo series one. So if I open the group, I have all these tiles, and again, I can replace them by randomly selecting some and dragging in a different one. So something like that. So you have some options to do that sort of thing too. I'm not really digging any of these looks. I'm probably just going to delete this whole thing. All right, I think I'm going to go back to doing some tiles like this. Make it a little bit shorter. And then I'll just move this up. I'm going to set my snap settings back to 6 inches. Changes to feet. And okay, so now we kind of go back to where we were. I'm kind of jumping around a lot too, just to kind of explain things, but let's go back to, I guess, the original sort of look we had, which was something like, I can't remember which tile it was. I think it was this one with these panels in front of it. I think I'll just go with this sort of design because at some point you just have to decide on some direction. So we'll go with something like this. I might just look real quick if there's anything else we could try to put in front of it. We have something like this. This would kind of go behind it though. You could do, looking for any more like drapes or fabrics. I think just as an alternative for options, I would like maybe do something like these. Again, if you're wanting to like mix some scenery, and then you can kind of move these around, overlap them, scale them. Something like this. Maybe even mix some of the materials for different ones. And then I would probably move some of them forward or backward too, like that. This can start to look really cool once you start downlighting it and uplighting it. So if you have some truss hanging all of the scenery, then I would definitely like try to create depth up here, and then I would be downlighting it and uplighting it, and it would start to look real nice with that. But I think, again, I'm going to stick with that other look because I kind of dug that one. So let's go here. And I think from here you could even add a couple things in front of this. I've done designs that are similar to this. So I'm kind of repeating some stuff that I've done before. But I tend to like this look. And what you could do too is build off of this. So I could say that maybe I want like another one of these over here so that it kind of plays with this. And let's say that this goes, we can play with the placement of how these are all set up, but for now I'm just kind of trying to create a general look of things. But this can kind of play with the look of the center here. And then maybe you want to add some of these. Maybe I'll just duplicate this whole thing and use some of it. So what you can do from here, I think maybe I just want like a small column of this. I can just select this and remove a portion of it by doing that and then deleting it. Another way you could do it is open the group and then just like select whatever pieces that you don't want in it. Or you go to the top camera view and zoom in a bit and just remove like the panels that you don't want. So let's leave it kind of large for now though. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let's see. Ungroup. Make sure they are grouped. Some of these that have holes in them are hard to grab. So if I need to make sure to grab part of the solid part of the tile here. Or I could just go to my top view and grab them. All right, now I'm going to group. All right, so from here, let's say, again, I'm just trying to think of some ways to make this sort of tie in with this over here. But I personal preference, I guess, or some kind of things that tend to look better than others. Personally, for me, I like to have some negative space or black space between things, so you have at least some contrast or some large contrast. So I would probably like move these over. So because if you had this right next to it, I mean, I could be wrong, but see if I grabbed all this and put it right next to it. It doesn't look too bad, honestly, but things can start to look just like a little bit overwhelming. Like if you walk in the door of a space and then there's just a ton of stuff going on, like on one wall or right in the center, right? So I think it's often a good idea to break up all of that by adding some black space between things. But I kind of like this little bit of the pattern poking out of the back there. It's not too bad. I would just duplicate this, move it over here. And again, with your client, if you wanted to show them multiple options of things, you could just change out this tile by like, changing the tile real quick like that, and then sending them a quick rendering of what that looks like with a different tile on, because that can definitely change up the look of it. Kind of liked, where did that one go? This one too has a similar look, but not exactly the same. Actually, I think I like the first one better. But this is kind of where you play with things. It's really cool to be able to see that instant difference of what it looks like. And then again, you could probably do this all over again once you actually get your lighting on it, because it's going to look a lot different once you get your lighting on it too. Like that one's pretty cool, actually. Definitely a different look with that. Maybe a bit too much though. Okay, so I might be getting into the weeds with all this now, but I need to stop or choose something here. So we'll just leave it at that for now. We can always go back and play with it again. Okay, so we got to look here. I need to move, I think I want some more space between these. Move these over. Something like that for now. Looks pretty cool. And then we could add something to the middle and maybe even something more to the outsides here too. I'm just trying to think out loud of what could be done to kind of fill out this whole wall, because it's a fairly large wall. Let's just add a stage for the moment. I think the stage would need to be about the width of this. So I'm just going to orbit above the ceiling here, and it'll be able to show me what's going on below there. So let me see here. Looks like we got about 40 feet. We'll just leave it at that. And I always like to, when I can, use a different material, if it's possible, than just your standard stuff. And you can, if you add like one of these materials, you can adjust the gloss of it too. So I might make it like a subtle gloss, which you typically can't really see much of until there's lighting on there, but we'll just leave it at that for now. I'll just add some stairs real quick to the side here. Maybe we do 3 stairs, and I'm just going to scale it down a bit so that it fits that. And you could even copy one of these and do like a set of stairs on the front. So I could rotate this 90 degrees. Move it here, maybe go to my top view. Scale it to be a kind of wide front sort of setup here. Find my center line right there. And let's say that it is 16 feet. So leave it at that. Something like that for now. Kind of cool. Right now it's kind of starting to look like a gala sort of awards thing, but I think with a few changes, if you wanted to make it look more like a sort of corporate meeting, you could just change a couple of these things and it would start to look different. So we'll play with some of that here too in a minute. All right, so I've got this going on. I'm just thinking I want to do something maybe in the center. Let's go back to screens here. I could do, you could even, I'll just show real quick what you could do with the foliage. I don't think that it would necessarily work for something like this, but if there's ever an opportunity where your client really likes to see, like what a lot of greenery might look like, I think it can really transform a design and really give it a lot more of like a natural feel to things. So I'll just show you one way that you can use these, because I tend to really like them when they're added into a lot of things. So the way that I do them is I would usually do like some columns or something of them. So maybe you have like a 5-foot wide column of greenery. And let me see here. So I think this is showing up. It's being populated behind the scenery that's already placed here. So that's why I can't see it. So if I add this, I just need to move it forward a little bit like that. And what I might do is, I'll just do it this way. So that should work. So I'll add that in, and then what I typically do is I'll place it, and I'll just add more so that it's kind of layered. The foliage is layered. So I'll add maybe this one. Make sure that it's kind of on top of each other like this. Cool. And then I'll place that. And you can also change the color of these. So I could, and you can play with this later once you get your lighting in. But if you wanted to make it look like more green, or maybe you had a fall look you were going for, you could change this to that. I know a lot of production companies don't really deal with foliage, but you could always find this sort of stuff from vendors or other companies that do these types of setups for events too. So definitely some possibilities there. And if it's overall going to make the client happier, you might as well, right? And then maybe I'll just add one more real quick. So there's a bunch layered there. This one's a bit dark. I think if I can lighten it up a bit. Maybe just make it more green. I think it's just dark without any lighting on it. Maybe I'll remove that one. What does this one look like? It's a bit more green. I think I like just these two. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I just want to show an example of how I would use these. So we have this like 5 foot by, well, it's kind of sporadic. So right here it says it's like 8 feet by about 18 feet. Let me see. Yeah, it's like 6-7 feet wide. But what I would do is I would group these two. So you could do it that way, or I could go to my top view, scroll over them, and then group them. This object does not highlight. So the gizmo will show up in front of it or at the bottom of it, but it doesn't highlight because of the way that some of it's selected. And also when it highlights, it doesn't look as good because then everything's highlighted and you can barely even see the actual foliage. So just a note on that. All right, so anyways, I just want to show how you might create a group of this, but I would do it like that, and then I would just duplicate like a couple of these. And they actually, when they populate, they are placed randomly. So like each one of these little plants is an individual plant. And so if I duplicate them, they actually get placed randomly within that space so that they're not all like the exact same, if that makes sense. Cool. So I think that's pretty sweet looking. Got a lot of layering going on here. And this might need to be placed back. And so at this point, I think the way that these screens would probably be set up is that they would probably be like on some type of floor supported stand, like some truss uprights or something. Yeah, so again, you definitely don't have to use these, but I just wanted to show how you could set those up. But yeah, so I mean, what would be awesome would be actually to have, in my opinion, it would be to have probably 2 runs of truss here. So I would do like, if I go to rigging, thanks, Alex. I would do, let's say we do like 90 feet here. And then I would do actually another one. I would do one like right here-ish. Actually, it'd have to be, I think, like here. And then another one like just in front of it, which would allow you to create a bunch more depth and also get a lot more lighting happening. So I think it's rare that you're able to, create a bunch of runs of truss like this. But if there ever is a situation where you can, maybe you have, what I would do is if you have some rig points like right here, then I would rig this one from the ceiling, and then behind it, I would do lifts, behind that. So like, I think in staging here, we have a couple really generic lifts, so I would set that here, right? And then this is going to be supported by some lifts. Just randomly placing these for now. And then these would be hung by some hoists. Something like this. Again, I'm just throwing these in randomly, not really measuring, but and then possibly even you do, you know, these are ground supported, possibly by some truss or something. I might go into my side view here and move these up a bit. Let me grab these, move these up to like here. Move this up. This one up to here, and then I can just scale this lift. Actually, there's a couple lifts. Maybe we have it hanging from the top there or something. So yeah, something like this. And then, you know, I would probably hide that with skirting. Which, by the way, when I do skirting up there, I typically just do it this way. We don't have like an easy button on the truss options over here to like add skirting yet. That's something that's on our list. We just haven't got there yet. But what I do, which is fairly easy, is to just take this second drape panel, which doesn't have any bases on it, and I just kind of set it in front of the truss right here. And then if I zoom in, I can create a quick truss teaser there. And then you can make this however big you want and then just duplicate it like this. So without too much effort, you can get that added in. Cool. All right, so we got that going on there. I think we can start adding lighting. I just wanted to think real quick about if there was anything that we could add kind of on the sides here. I think it looks cool. It's like, do we want to put anything here? And I also have to think about real quick too, if we wanted to support this with truss. The only downside about supporting this with truss legs or some type of leg is that you do have the legs sitting there. So I think what I would do is just basically do a truss up right here. Let's say I added a base. Let me go to the top view here. I just want to see what it looks like. So let's add a base there, and then I'll add a piece of truss on top of it. This is 10 feet, which is probably plenty. And then let me make sure that it's sitting there, right? And then I might just group these. What you can do too, though, is just put, instead of doing a piece of truss, because I would wrap this anyways. So for this setup, I don't think you would want to see the truss. I think you would want to wrap it in black or something. So I probably wouldn't even use the truss. I would just use this basic cube here and call this would be the wrapped around the truss. And so we'll set this to a foot by a foot by 10, maybe it's 15, 12, 12.5, something like that. So this is kind of how it would end up looking anyways. And I can create like, actually before I do that, so I'll create this, I'll duplicate this. And then if we hold shift and select all of it, actually, hold on. Just want to move this over a little bit. All right, now if I select all of them and then group them, now it's just like one object there. But yeah, I think that actually would probably be okay. I mean, I guess if you could, I would move the, which actually would probably be the way it would work anyways. I would move the legs all the way out. You could possibly even move them all the way out this way. If they came all the way up to the top, that would look probably okay. Let me see. If I increase this to about that high. Same thing over here. And I'll just close the group. Yeah, so I think when the room's dark, because in my opinion, what I'm trying to do is just kind of hide the legs, right? And at this point, I'm just going to duplicate this, move it over. So, yeah, and this kind of helps too with lighting and stuff, right? Because now you're not stuck with having to possibly light your screen and all sorts of stuff like that. So now you can really go crazy with lighting up your set design back there. All right. And again, I'm still trying to think if we want something over here. Let's see. I also was thinking maybe putting a screen or something in here, or even you could do some type of logo. I don't really have any. I mean, I could use our own here, but if you had a big sign, you could kind of do something where it was sitting over here. Or maybe in front of one of these foliage pieces. Our logo doesn't really work with this, but so what could we do over here? You could play with doing some more scenery over there, or you could just do some kind of cool light bar thing. Let's do this for now. I'm going to add some drape over there. I could just go to staging, add some drape. So basically I'm just going to black out this whole area. Put this here. And I'll make it as tall as this, maybe even up to there. Something like that. We can adjust later. And then I'm just going to duplicate it and then group it. We could rotate it as well to kind of face it inward a bit. Probably don't want to cut off the very end for fire code stuff, but we'll just have that as is for now. But yeah, maybe you want to add some kind of cool lighting thing over there. Maybe there's, maybe do something. Actually, if I go into staging and then drag like some pipe in, you could add some sort of light bars in here. I don't know if this will look good or not, or you could do an extension of the foliage too. So like maybe you're just lighting up some foliage on the side too or something. So let's just play with that. I think we need to be at a 20 degree. Yeah, 20 degree angle. And to navigate around here, I'm basically just using this orbit button here, which kind of zooms me into the object that I have selected. So if I'm like back here in the center and I want to go over here, I just hit this orbit button, or F on my keyboard, which is supposed to be for focus. All right, so I just want to play with a couple things here. Let me move this up. And do something like this. Let's have this pipe here. You probably want, if you're going to go high with this, you probably want some truss supporting this, or a much larger base. But for now, I'm just going to do this. Click on this pipe here. And just kind of face it out like that. And then duplicate. I'll make them symmetrical, or a certain distance. So let's change this to like a foot and see what we get here. So I'm gonna do this. See how high we go. So that's probably too high. Maybe we want to do something like 2 feet. Yeah, so I would do something like that, and then I would just move the whole thing to be centered. And then I'll go to my top view here and group these all. And it looks like this is off by a little bit. In a rendering, just as a note, when things are off by a little bit like that, you pretty much will never be able to see it in the final rendering. So sometimes I'll just leave things be if it's a time consideration. And then like, if you're actually creating the, let's say, floor plans for the actual event, and you need that to look correct, then by all means go back and do that. All right, anyways, I just wanted to see what this could look like to kind of create something over in this corner here. You could do, this might look weird though, because now there's like these LED upright things aren't really anywhere else in the scene. I mean, you could, again, depending on your budget here, but you could start to add them in other areas. But yeah, all depends on your client and what they're looking for. So let's just play with it, might as well. So let's say we want this like right here ish. Probably have to adjust it, but let's play with it here for now. I add another one over here. We'll see what this looks like to tie it in. It could work. Let's see. Just want to rotate it so it's not really like washing out over here. And then, yeah, so I think we'd have to have these kind of just like sit right next to here. Let's see what that looks like. Kind of works. What you can do here too is I'll go up to selection, select all, and then right now these are all considered uplights, so I can just select all uplights and adjust the color just so they're not so bright, or maybe, yeah, maybe we'll just go off of the color of our logo here for now. You can use the color picker if you want. It's gonna be pretty dark right now because it's, let's do that for the moment. Okay. Trying to think here if I should make these a little bit shorter. And you can also make these all into one group so that they're a little bit easier to select and adjust. Yeah, I think I just want to adjust them a little bit shorter, or move them down a bit, maybe. Not a huge deal, but although it kind of seems like they're sort of centered with the middle of this, so maybe we'll leave them for now. Okay, I'm just gonna leave them. All right, so from here I can duplicate this, move it over here. We do have a option as well to kind of mirror things. It works well for some situations, so let's just go ahead and try it and see if it works for what we need. So I'm just going to select this, hit mirror X for the X axis, but I believe it's just going to mirror it over here. I don't think it's going to rotate it for us. Let's see. Okay, so it actually mirrored it, but did not keep the rotation of the group, I guess. Mirror X. Okay. So it's at least positioned probably correctly, but we would need to open it and just rotate each one of these. All right, let's see what will happen if I try to mirror this one. Okay, it looks like that worked. Excuse me, my throat is dry. I feel like I start these streams with so much energy and it just falls away. Okay, I think I just need to rotate this a bit. We can play with that. Let's see if I mirror this one. I think I just need to rotate that now. 20 degrees. Just learn how to hide items. Hiding items is a great tool. Indeed. Hiding and grouping things. Grouping things is huge as well. I just put out a video Wednesday about talking about a number of things, but grouping things, especially lighting, helps out a ton. Or like, so I would say that grouping things like improves your workflow by a lot, because once you've got all your stuff added, you got your drape, you got your stage, lighting, other stuff in there, that's all good. But then like once you want to start like iterating or, conceptualizing and trying different things, because I think ultimately unless you know exactly what you want, then you're not really having to go back and forth and do a lot of different things. But with something like what I'm doing right now, you want to try a lot of different things, and to be able to group certain objects that make it easier, so that you just have to select them once instead of like holding shift and selecting multiple objects, it just helps save a lot of time and makes everything easier, as well as hiding those things and actually selecting them out of this list too. So this object is in screens here, and if I hover over it, it'll show me where it is. But instead of having to like hide all the individual items, I can just hide this and it'll hide the whole thing because it's grouped, right? I could also lock it. Like a lot of times actually I'll do that with drape, because if I know that I don't need to move this drape back here anymore and it might get in the way of me selecting other things, then I'll just select all the drape and just go to lock. And now, like if I try to select all of this, it won't select that drape. So that's definitely another big tip to doing that. All right, so I think, where was I at? I guess adding this one to the other side. So I'll just rotate these. Do the same thing over here. Mirror. Rotate. Rotate. Cool. Okay, we have a general look going on here. It definitely changes things with all these LED lights here, but I'd say at this point, let's light other stuff, the scenery, and then we can kind of mix it all together. But ultimately what I was trying to do was fill out these dead spaces in the left and right. I think it is pretty cool now, as my subjective viewpoint goes, because we have a bit of interest going on the sides and then more interest to the center. So it all ties in and you have your kind of overall look in the center. I think to add anything else to it, if you wanted more content, I would say you could add like some smaller screens kind of in the center here. So you could even do a projector and do some kind of cool projection situation going on with some different shapes or something. I mean, that might get too busy, but move this to the center. But just some other things you could potentially do there too. So if I were doing like multiple options, I think I might add in some more screens over here. Like as large as you can get the screen, 8.5. Something like this. Maybe you do 3 screens even. I don't know. But you could play with that, or you could make these small projection screens. I mean, I don't think every client loves this, but I often like to play with setting things off center. So instead of everything being symmetrical all the time, I like to play with things being a little bit off. So maybe you create some type of abstract situation going on. Let's add a random graphic to these. So yeah, anyways, just a couple options you could do with that. I might like group these and then hide them if I don't want them there for now, and then I could bring back my logo, which is in miscellaneous, I think. No. I gotta find the thing that's hidden, I guess, which would be not that one. Oh, sign. Here you go. And you could even do multiple logos. I feel like these are way too big. Tim, good to see you. Yeah, hide option is great. Hide's been out for, I don't know, a couple months, maybe less. Hide, lock, open all groups has always been there, but we've added it to this spot right here. Yeah, like locking your drape, that seems to be like one of the main things I always lock, because I set it there, I'm not going to move it. Or like locking truss, right? Like I don't ever want to touch this truss again, so I just lock it, and then you're good to go. Maybe I'll lock these lifts back here too, right? Lock. There's another thing too, Tim, you might be interested in this. I think I added this to a video at one point, but you can do some cool things with like adding custom logos now, or custom images where you separate them. So maybe you've already seen this, but basically if I had like a sign or something that I knew I wanted to separate, it's hard to explain this. I'll try to do my best, but let's say I wanted to make this, or someone wanted a sign that kind of was like split up, or maybe you're doing some projection mapping, or maybe it was even LED, and some kind of creative LED shape that you were trying to create. What you could do is import that full shape. Maybe it was like a heart or a diamond or something shape. You could just import basically the whole shape if you wanted to. And then, actually, let's just do that, Let's stop talking. Let's just do it. All right. So I'm going to do like a diamond shape, I guess, unless someone else has an idea for a cool shape. But let's say that we have a diamond shape. I'm just going to try to grab a PNG of a diamond shape. Diamond PNG. And I think you'd probably want the graphic on it too. So it'd be like a diamond shape with a graphic on it. Or what you could do is just project onto the shape. But I'm trying to kind of give an example of something that you could potentially actually do in the real world. But I'm having trouble finding an actual shape of a diamond. I could just create one in Photoshop, I guess. Well, maybe I'll just explain what I want to do. I mean, you could create a diamond if you wanted to as well, with just a couple triangles too, right? So I could do this easily by just using these triangles here too, and actually adding a image to this. So I'll do this one of two ways. I'm just kind of going down a rabbit hole right now. Forgive me. I've just kind of sparked my own interest, but trying to explain or show some examples of something you could do that maybe you would do in the real world as well. So I'm going to scale these up a bit. Actually, let's do it this way. So I'm going to select this one. Let's say like 8 by 8. 8 feet by 8 feet. Actually, let's do 0.5 width or depth. And maybe it's a little too big. I don't know, but let's get this out of here for now. But let's say you added an image to it. So in this case, you know, it's just the same graphic here. So you could, of course, scale the graphic and sort of make it fit however you wanted to here. So it's a little funky because it's a triangle. Another thing you can do too, which is kind of a hidden feature, if you guys ever are playing with wanting to create like a animation or like creating a video for your client, so you could do like a fly through, right, with some haze and stuff. But if you wanted some content to move on the screens, I believe on both the fast fold and definitely the LED screens, you can have the content move. I think it's if you hold Shift and hit your arrow key on your keyboard. So now it'll automatically like scroll. This is just kind of a hidden feature for the moment because we don't have like a UI button for it, and it was just kind of something that we had added as a little thing in the meantime. But if you wanted to ever do that, you can. It works best when you have like a seamless texture that you can that would seamlessly scroll. So anyways, just a note on that. But I think back to what I was trying to explain at the beginning. Sorry, one second. Let me fix this. If I wanted to create a shape that was, again, like LED or some custom shape, what you can do is you can cut up the shape, let's say, without having to go into something like Photoshop. So if this logo was here and I wanted to kind of separate it for some reason, what I can do is duplicate it, and then basically what I'm going to try to do is make the E and the R separate. So over here on the right side, this is where I can edit the actual texture. So I'm going to move, actually I'm going to scale it first. Let's see here. Stretch it like this. It looks really funky to begin with. All right. Let's move that, stretch it back to here. Okay, so this is all stretched and funky looking, and I'm going to delete that other one. What I want to do now is just get it back to where the proportions are correct. So now the E is like this. This probably just doesn't work very well with my logo, but so now I have this section of this over here, and what I'm going to do now is just move, oops, the wrong one. Now I'm just going to move this over. And I think from there I can stretch it to be a little bit more proportional. But this isn't the greatest example, but basically what I'm trying to say is that you can create some interesting things by doing stuff like this if your client wanted to kind of, you know, get creative and do this sort of thing. And then with the custom images, you can actually make them look like they are like lit up in some way. So if they were, let's say, like a light box or an actual LED object, you can increase the selection intensity to make the texture actually have brightness to it. You can also change the light spill to kind of make it look like if there was a specific material you were using on it that was either reflective or not. So anyways, just wanted to show that as an additional thing. You know, I don't know, it's getting kind of crazy looking now. So anyways, just some examples of some stuff. Let's add some lighting here, like I had mentioned doing half an hour ago. So for lighting, what I would do, I mean, rigging lighting is always going to look best. So, and I think for a setup like this, you would most likely be rigging your lighting anyways. So I think before I do a stage wash and stuff, I think I'll just add some lighting to the scenery first. So we created basically these two separate lines of truss here so that we could create a good amount of depth and downlighting and uplighting. I'd actually maybe even move this one back a little further so we can play with that in a second, but just some options here. So what I would do now, the fastest way to do this, and usually kind of the best way, is to go to the build section here and then lighting, and just start adding downlights or uplights if that's what you're going to use. So I would probably just use these downlights and uplights. And what this does, if you don't already know, is it adds a bunch of lights where they would typically be within a setup. So again, if we're looking at the top view, we have this red horizontal line here. The whole build system right here, this whole build section, is just going to populate or add things based around the red line here and like where things would typically be. But the idea is that it places it there as kind of a basic option, and then you would edit it or move it from there. So it placed, let's see, 6 lights, and the width right now, the spacing, the overall spacing is about 80 feet. So I would probably, I might go into my normal orbit view and just look at where things are sitting. So I think probably we're gonna have to play with this a bit because there's a lot of stuff to light, but you know, what you do is you just light the center part first. So I'm just gonna take this in a little bit here, and then what I would do maybe from after this is like light this section, and then I'll take a few of these lights and duplicate them and then light the outside sections after. So I'm just going to focus on the center one for now. And then you can add a couple lights if you want. The placement is probably not going to be where you want it right now, so you'd probably want to adjust it. I'm going to remove these as well and just hide these for the moment. And I'll leave this funky thing here for the moment too. Okay, yeah, so these lights, if I move them back, I kind of want to think too about what I want to light. So I definitely want to light this foliage up. I think let's try just uplighting or lighting the foliage and then maybe the back pieces right here. But lighting is always something where, I mean, it's like probably the best part about this program is when you start to light things, because you can see immediately like what it's going to look like. But and I also think, let me see here. Yeah, okay. I have the shadows off for the moment because I'm going to have a lot of lighting in here, and it's going to slow things down a little bit. But we'll turn the shadows on in a bit. All right, so I have this. I think what I might do is maybe I'll do sorry, I'm just thinking right now. You could also do this just by dragging in an individual light, because in this case, like, this isn't really the type of setup where you just kind of evenly place a bunch of lights. So I might not do this. When you have like just one line of decor, I think you would often do it like this, because then you just want to light evenly throughout everything. But in this case, we have depth and we have a lot of different objects to light. So what I think I will do for now is go individually, and I'll just add in a light here, and then what I'm going to do is see what they look like for each spot and where I want to light them. So I'm just going to duplicate another one over here maybe. Maybe I'll leave that one for now. And then I'll just do hide these guys too. Group, hide. And then once I start downlighting things, it'll look pretty sweet too. All right, that already looks pretty cool. So I think what I'll do for here is I'll group these 3, and then I'll group these 2. And yeah, at the moment I'm just trying to kind of get a look with these, see what they look like really. Adjust the color a bit. Actually, I'll leave it just white, and I'll put these ones as a deeper color. Okay, so we can adjust all this in a minute, but what I'm going to do now is find out where we can place these above. So right now the scenery is all like on this back line of truss here, which I think actually I would move it back even further to here. And you can move this back a bit too, or actually I need to unlock that. Move that back as far as that can go. And this will create more depth, more shadow. Overall, it'll look better. So now let me lock the scenery, and then these 3 fabric pieces, I think, well, I mean, they could even be floor supported potentially, which would help because then you can kind of place them wherever. But if they were hanging, I think they would probably have to hang off of this truss. I'll just leave them right here now. We'll say they're floor supported for now. And then this foliage would have to be hanging off of this truss here. So we'll say it's like hanging off the back rung of this further down stage truss. Okay, so this is like general placement we have there. And then what I would do is duplicate these 2 lights and move them up. You could also drag in, like we have this downlight option where it already comes kind of flipped so that it's hanging downward, and then you can kind of just place it as needed. So in this case, this is why it's really nice to have these 2 lines of truss, because now you can light the scenery with a good amount of spacing, and it just always looks a lot better that way. So let's just duplicate these 2. Still don't know if we want to do lighting on the outside here. Maybe. All right, we'll just group these for now. Let's change those to that blue too. All right, and then let's go ahead and we'll downlight the foliage probably too, maybe. Not 100% sure because the foliage is pretty far forward, so it might not look as good to downlight it. But let's see. So in this case, you kind of have to put the light closer, unless you were to outrig it and like put it way over here. Sometimes I'll just do something like this, and then I'll just have to kind of adjust the brightness of them because they might be a little too hot up there. So we'll just place those there for now. We can see what we want to do with them later. All right, I'll just turn these shadows on, see what that looks like. Reduce the light of the room a bit. Pretty good look there so far. Haven't really played with the color yet. But so now I have these objects grouped, and you could do like, from here you could definitely do some different colors between the bottom and top lights. That's why uplighting and downlighting typically looks really nice when you mix the different colors between the downlights and the uplights. And then choosing colors usually takes me about 2 hours because I just can never decide on that. We'll just do something crazy like this for now. There's not a undo for lighting at the moment. We were just discussing this actually recently. The undo in general is kind of minimal as far as functionality goes. This isn't in the live build yet, but let me see if so I'm using the development build right now locally, and we recently started to work on an option to where if you change something that can't be undone, we at least will show like a warning sign that tells you that it can't be undone, rather than not saying anything at all. So like if I were to change the lighting here and then click undo, right now we just have this placeholder that says you cannot undo the last change. It's kind of unfortunate. It's just that the undo within this system is really hard to implement. So it'll just take us a long time to implement it. And we've kind of just paused on deciding when we should implement the undo for everything, because it's such a big thing that will kind of affect everything. So anyways, all that to say that at the moment, we do not have the undo, just only affects really move and delete at the moment. All right, so we can add some more lights over to this section. So I'm going to open all groups and duplicate this one, and then I'll probably do the same thing for these. All right, so I think this will look pretty cool once we start adjusting the lighting on everything, but for now we just need to basically finish adding lights to over here. Where are my lights over here? Okay, those lights are there. Okay, so now from here, I think I'm just going to copy all of these and place them over here. And then, let me see. Okay, if I want some of these to be within the same group as some of these other ones, I might need to regroup some of them, which is not a huge deal, but if you don't want everything to be like in separate groups. So let's do this. Group all. And then I'm just going to, so in this situation, we don't have truss up here, so we wouldn't really be able to downlight these. But we'll have to play with that to make sure that they're not like, actually at this point, I don't know. We'd probably have to do some upright or something behind this foliage to get them to hang like this. So I guess in that situation, you could potentially downlight the foliage if you had like a piece of truss holding this all up behind it, you know? Oops. Go above this. So yeah, sometimes I'll just place some lights like this and they don't necessarily, they're just kind of floating in the air without anything there, but I'm just kind of assuming that that they would be hung with something, whether it's some upright truss or something behind there, you know. But if you're not going to see the rigging in the rendering anyways, then sometimes I just don't add it, you know, for the time being, if you will. Okay. So let's say we have that, and from here, let's mirror these to over here. All right, from here now I'm going to try to get things grouped because I think I have all the general lighting placed the way that I want it to. I could add some more like movers and things like that in the room after this as well. So I'm going to go through some of this and just group some of it. Okay. So let's grab, I think I want all the bottom foliage. Let me do this actually. Okay, so what I just did is I selected all uplights in the scene and I grouped them all. And now what I'm going to do, so that just allowed me to like grab every uplight in the scene. Just went to select uplights and it grabs everything. I grouped them all. Now I'm just going to actually ungroup them all. What you could do for a second here though is just turn everything to one color just to see what that looks like. All right, but yeah, what I think I'm going to do is just ungroup them all and then find the lights that I want to group together. So I could go to the top view here and group them, but I actually think it's going to be a little bit easier to kind of just float around and look at them this way. So what I want to do personally is group the foliage lights on the that are just kind of uplights, so the bottom ones first, because I want to be able to select those at once. So we'll go group. And then like be able to select the top foliage ones at once. Because potentially I want those into two different colors. You know, if you were on like an actual lighting console, you would potentially be doing a similar thing, just in a, you know, different way rather than selecting them like I'm doing here. Okay, so now we got that and that. So now you can like, you could change the colors of these, right? So they could both be the same color, or you could do two different colors. So that's why the grouping those is really nice. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom pieces that are on the scenery. I think that's it for that group. And where are my other lights? These ones are a little hard to see, but they are right here. Group. Oops, I forgot to group these ones in there. Okay, so now we can select those ones and change those to like a specific color. And then select the bottom ones and change those to like a different color. All right, now I think these ones are not grouped anymore either. So just select these ones. I think you could also do this fairly easily by doing it in the list section. So I could just, let me see where these are at. Right here, yeah, so I could do, just hold shift and select all these like this. And then group. Okay. All right, now I have all those grouped. So now this is pretty nice. Over here too, just as a tip, you can rename these in the lighting section, which definitely helps out once you have a lot of lighting in your scene. So I might say that this is called vertical light pillars or something. I don't know. Uplights on foliage. This one is uplights on tiles. Yeah, so you can rename them. Downlights on tiles. Downlights on foliage. Yeah, so you can rename them, and definitely helps once you've got a ton of lighting in there. We also have this export list option now, which we've created a export to Excel or CSV file, so you can like export that as a Google Sheet or an Excel file to kind of tell whoever you want the actual gear that's in the project that you're using. And so we've tried to make it, we're still kind of working on a bit, but we've tried to make it work somewhat practically. So like in this lighting section here, we've created those groups, and then we rename them. And then we rename them, right? So it says 8. We have 8 downlights on the tiles. We have 9 downlights on the foliage, 9 uplights on the foliage, blah blah blah. And so you could potentially use that for multiple things. We've also, some of the like default names of a lot of these things are not great because they go off of the name of the actual 3D model that we created or named ourselves. And so we have to go through and rework some of the default names, which we're doing soon. So if you're wondering about that, that's a thing we're working on too. But anyways, so yeah, okay. So from here, we can play around with a lot of lighting and stuff. I think I would reduce this Turn our shadows back on. So this is kind of what it's going to look like with all the shadows and stuff. Ends up being a little darker, so you could probably increase lighting on some of this stuff. And yeah, it usually helps when you have some graphics to go off of. Right now, I don't really have any branding or graphics to kind of guide me. So I'm just playing with some random colors here. That looks kind of cool in my opinion. So lots of cool looks there. I mean, if you walked into this ballroom, it'd be like, whoa, crazy, I think. Let's make these vertical things stand out a bit more. I don't think we want them to be distracting, but I think we want them to kind of be like a scenery. Okay, so we'll do that, and then we can just kind of finish this up by adding in some stage wash and a couple other things too, probably. All right, so for stage wash, I'm just gonna rig some lighting in this downstage area here. So I'm gonna use this lighting section in the build area, and that will automatically place some lights right here in the center area. So I typically like to, I mean, I'm not necessarily a lighting designer. I've just been using lights in 3D programs for a long time, and I have done a good amount of real lighting on lighting consoles back when I was more of a technician, but it's been a little bit of time, so things could have changed, or probably have. But anyways, so I would typically kind of get these Licos to be about the width of the stage here, something like this. But again, if you're more of a lighting designer, definitely do what works best for you. And then, and again too, I know a lot of people will do like larger stages and different shape stages too. So this is just I'm just talking about like a basic kind of rectangular stage right here. It definitely gets a little more complicated when you start doing like extensions to your stage, because then you have to add lights kind of further down stage that then have to hit in sort of more cover more depth. That definitely takes a little bit more time to get right. But either way, if you're trying to rough something in or just get something to look nice quickly, this is kind of the best option that I usually go with. So maybe 6 lights here is probably good enough for now. I think this ceiling is about 20 feet. Let's say our truss is, okay, maybe we're not at 20 feet. Let's see. If I do some rigging, I'll add some rigging here and I'll place it right here. And how tall are we? Okay, I think it is 20 feet tall at the top, yeah. But the bottom or trim is going to be, let's just say 18 feet, I guess. I'd like it to be a little higher, but maybe we do like 18.5. I'll just place that there for now. And okay, from here, you can kind of just move your lights around now if you want to too. So if they need to be adjusted, just move them as you need to. And then from there, oops, back to lighting. I can adjust the brightness of it. It looks like I have an orange light happening right now. If you were to use a gel, or maybe you have some LED Licos or something, you can adjust the color of it. So I would maybe I like to do like a little bit more of a cooler light for my stage wash. but it kind of also depends on the scenery and the branding. If you have more warmer colors in your set, it could be that your stage wash will look better with warmer lighting. So, all right. I'm going to rotate these down just a little bit, and then adjust the cone angle. And this is a new thing too that we recently did, but you have a shutter option. So you click on this check mark to use the shutter, and then you have 4 sliders here where you can adjust the actual shutter. So L is for left, R is for right, T is for top, B is for bottom. So I would usually adjust the top first. I think we'll probably actually need to maybe rotate this. Let's play with it first. So if we do the bottom, we can knock off the bottom of the stage, which will make that look a little better. However, you might want to light the stairs, and maybe you just want to light the stairs with a separate light. I mean, you could just create additional lights to kind of light that up too if you wanted. So something like this. We'll just do this real quick. And maybe shutter these off too. And then you can even do the left and right side to make it really adjusted really well. So let's see. If I select the right one and then bring in the right side, select the left one, bring in the left side, maybe a little bit more, something like that. You kind of have that option. Okay, and then for these ones, this looks a little bright too, but either way. So for these ones, I would bring in the right side and left side too. Like this. Unless you want to highlight the stairs over there. Oops, not the right side. Cool, now my stage looks just about perfect. And then let's make 2 separate groups for these. Group, and I'll make these 2 into a group because these probably need to be dimmed a little. All right, so we're looking pretty sweet. I would probably also put someone on the stage, whether it's just an individual or a panel of people. As you can see already, it looks like with some people on there, it's a bit blown out. Let's say we've got these guys, and I think if I rotate these lights a little bit, all right, and then I'm just going to bring down the intensity a bit. It's always a little hard to tell how bright it is unless you have some people on there. All right, you can also, I think if you added a material to the stage in this section from this area, you can then change the color of the stage to the top. So if you did, and you can change the gloss of it. So if you wanted to like have an actual overlay on the stage, you can then go here and adjust the color of it. Maybe you wanted it to be white or something, or maybe just like a dark gray or something like that. But you can, this is kind of a good time to play with the color of the stage to get it either to look realistic, kind of how it might be, or, whatever you want it to be, really. So these are things you could play with for a while too, but I kind of like the brighter stage, so I was just thinking, if you have to dim your stage wash, but you still like the brightness of the stage, then you might just increase the light spill or the color of it. Okay, anyways, that's enough time on the stage wash, I think. So we can now, I think, add some maybe room lights and stuff real quick. So for this, yeah, there's so much like happening in the front right now. I think it could use just a few lights, in the audience or around the room. So for this, I might add some gobos or something. So I'm going to spread these lights out a bit. Let's do like 85 feet. And you can usually play with this a little bit. You see the lights are right here. If I were to adjust how many, or the spacing a bit, you can see that they'll go in between the Licos that I have set up there. So maybe like right here, because now you see the movers are spaced in between there. And you could always go in individually and move them around, but I'm just doing this kind of to get a quick result. Move these back a little. Okay, so now I'll just need to move these up to the truss. And then I can start playing with their light. So let's increase the intensity. And this is pretty fun now, so I get to tilt and rotate these movers. We could fan them in or out. I think like fanning them out a bit and kind of covering the room will create a nice effect. And you can change the color a bit. And then we have some preset gobos here, but you could also upload any gobos you want. I think we just have I have uploaded some like stars, which are not great, but so anyways, all right, so that's kind of how I would do something like that. Maybe adjust the rotation of these a bit. Play with some of this stuff. You can definitely always add more lighting just to see what it looked like. In some cases you might add some more lights to kind of hit the ceiling as well. So you could do, in that case, you could do some lights on stage or just right below the stage potentially. Like this. I always just kind of do this stuff just to see what it would look like first usually. So if I hit the ceiling, now I have some light on the ceiling there, and let's say if you did a couple, and then again just group these guys and use these settings over here to kind of play around with how they're hitting things. So I could fan them in or out again to kind of cover the ceiling. And maybe you do even another one over here to cover the whole ceiling. Or you could add some lights like these. It's just a wash to cover some of the ceiling as well. These are a little hard to see where they're at exactly. I'll just do like 4 of these. Something like this, and then I can just adjust where they're sitting. I open the group, move this over a bit. Close the group. All right, now I have some more lights to play with. Tilt these ones up a bit, or maybe they're hitting the set, excuse me. Or potentially even you could use this aim button here and aim them at like this scenery over here if you wanted more light on them over here. So maybe I select the wash and then aim it at this scenery over here. And maybe these two are like aimed up here. I don't know, just playing around. Who knows? Maybe I just delete those and don't use them. And then finally, you could add some backlights as well. So these are going to automatically be placed kind of where backlights might often be placed, right up in this area. I think they're covered up by this truss right now. Let me see. Yeah, there they are. Or if you wanted to use some moving lights, you could throw those in as well. Actually, let's just do that. So I'm just going to go into lighting. I'm going to place a moving light, moving wash up here. I don't know if you would use this fixture because it might not be quite as controllable, if you will. Oops, but maybe. Let's see. Tilt this the other way. Yeah, actually, I don't think this one's going to work well for this. Unless you were to rotate it kind of down this way. Which you could do. Let's do 2 feet. Okay. So I've got this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Group. I'm just kind of playing and seeing what happens here. Oops. Yeah. I don't know. I guess you could do something like this. Add a little backlight to them. All right. I think I need to change the color of these. And then maybe add some seating as well in here, and we'll kind of call it a day after that, I think. So I kind of ended up going all in on the scenery thing. I think originally was asked about adding scenery to Drape. Ended up just kind of adding a ton of scenery and going all in on that. So there we go. We just finalize a couple things here. I have all this truss teaser right here that I added, and I'm just going to duplicate this and add that down here. Okay, and then let's do some classroom seating, I guess. Or should this be, I think this should be rounds probably. So I'm gonna separate these chairs or tables. Let's do by 12 feet. You can probably get a better look at it if you're from the top view. And I'm just gonna create like a section. Let's do like a section of 3 or maybe 4. And then a little bit deeper. And I can offset them as well like that. We'll call that good. And then we can add some type of decor to it if we wanted to, or I'd probably actually just do, you can choose plates or like notes. Well, this seems like an event where there would be plates. So we'll do that. Show people sitting facing center. Actually, they'll be facing forward. And then let's duplicate this. And I'm just going to kind of cut off the end here by deleting these at the end. Create another one there. And then you could go in and like rotate some of these if you wanted to make them kind of facing that way and all that sort of thing. Or maybe you wanted to move these ones in a bit. Or maybe you just do something like this. Who knows? These people are really close now. And at least for renderings, you don't necessarily have to do this, but I kind of like for renderings to cheat the middle row back if I can, even if it's not realistic, just so that I can see the front of the stage a little bit better, so that the end client or whoever is able to see what's happening at the front of the stage. So if you have stairs like this and you want to show that, you just move these people back a bit so they can see that. Let's see what else. I can adjust the lighting in the room down a little bit more. Maybe something like that. I would like a better graphic for these screens, but I don't really have anything at the moment in my library. Okay, so we could leave it at that. You could potentially, from here, add some saved camera views if you wanted to. So this is kind of the last few things I would do if I were finalizing this all. I would create some camera views. So I think I already have some set up here from something else, but they're probably not going to be great. So I'll just start from scratch and show you what I would do here. So I'm just going to delete these. And I would go probably to the first person camera view, which is right here. And that gives me more of like a kind of on the ground look. And then what's also nice about this first person view is that if you zoom out with your camera wheel, zoom out with your mouse wheel, you can get like a wide angle camera lens. So let's say I was right here. If I zoom out, I can get a wider angle. But I don't like to go too far out with the lens because that can distort things. So I might do something like this. You can also take the image too. So if you created a rendering of it, what I do sometimes is it'll create a rendering of the whole screen. And we might add a feature in the future to do something like this. But what I do sometimes is I'll crop it. So I'll cut off. Like I want this perspective, but I don't want to see this much of the ceiling. So I'll just cut off, part of the ceiling so that it doesn't, so that you're not seeing so much of the ceiling. So anyway, so I would save a camera view there. And then maybe do like another camera view over here. And maybe even a close-up camera view too, so that they can kind of see some more of the details of the stuff. Any chance we could get some folders inside the images list? Would be nice to get some additional organization there for sure. Yeah, definitely. I agree. I will mark that down right now. That is the first time I've heard that request, so I haven't. So we don't have it on our list right now of things to do, but I could definitely see where that would help. There, you can delete old images. So if I don't want some of these images, which I tend to delete things often, you can go through, just hit this delete button and then delete things that you don't want. So you can do that. But yeah, folders I think would help a ton too. So I'll add that to our list for sure. All right, and then I guess finally I might do some haze. I'd also try to make sure before I create a rendering that all the settings are kind of on. You don't have to, but like audience shadows, when I'm working, I tend to, depending on how much lighting and stuff is going on, I might turn these off because things just can operate a little bit faster with them off. But when I create final renderings, I might turn them back on. And then haze too. So haze can slow down. Basically the three things that will slow things down a bit are haze. Haze has quite an effect on it. And then these shadow options here. So you just play with turning those on and off if you're working or if you're not. Like if you're working and have a lot of lighting going on, I might turn some of that stuff off. But really just depends on how things are going. And yeah, and then haze if you want it or not. Another little option here too. Sometimes if I have haze on, you might notice that the the outlines of things are a little more noticeable, and that's all in this contrast setting right here. So I might turn this off just to see what it looks like, because then I won't have all those black outlines everywhere. They're subtle, but you can still see them in certain circumstances. So so if you have your haze on, you might play with that as well. If the haze is off, I tend to like having the contrast on because it helps in a darker room. It helps to have a subtle amount of contrast or black lines basically around everything, so that ultimately so that the client can see that there's something back there, like, okay, there's a line of drape or something back there, rather than it just all being so dark that you can't see anything. Okay, so that's just a note on that. And then maybe for your top view, if you wanted to create some floor plans or something, you can create some measurements. So you could just use this built-in measurement tool where in the top view, you have an option that just says measure. It tries to get a good measurement on most objects. If a certain object is like rotated and a lot of objects are grouped and rotated in a bunch of funky directions, then it might not be able to get the measurement correct. So you might have to just do a manual measurement. But you at least can use it for a number of things. So like for this truss, you can just really quickly go, okay, that's 90 feet. You know, for the stage, that's 40 feet. Maybe I want to show that it is, that the drape is 13 feet from the wall. And the edge of the stage is 55 feet from there. You might move some of these things. I don't know why there's some bug happening right now with that. I have to figure that out. And yeah, so some of those things you can do that, and then you could create some labels as well. Basically type in whatever, so truss here at this height, you know, whatever you want to say there. And then if you go to visuals, you can change the color option here. The white and black option is nice. You can create a rendering with that. Or potentially this option, which gives you the like base color of everything. So that can be nice if you want to be able to see the color of certain objects, which can definitely be nice. So like it shows where the foliage is here is actually green. Kind of hard to see the scenery and stuff because it's like below the truss, and everything else is kind of black. But in general, you can play with those different options depending on what you need for like a floor plan. And yeah, and then that's pretty much it. I also like to sometimes create screen recording videos of myself going through, like explaining what's happening in the rendering to kind of explain to the end client what's in the scene and what's going on. And then if you also want to create a animation, you can do that with this A button here. But again, if you do that, I would maybe recommend, if things are already moving slowly, you might want to adjust some of these settings. So I might have to like turn off the shadows, even though this is kind of not going to look super realistic, but to get a smooth animation, if you have a ton of lighting and a ton of shadows and all that stuff, you might have to do that. And yeah, I think the only other thing would be that, you know, in wanting to show multiple options, what I would do is, you know, take some of these options that you've created and name them, and then maybe hide them in the list here, and create a couple basically options that you can send them. You could also create a duplicate of the project. So I would go to new, duplicate, and then create like a new, you know, version if you wanted to. If you wanted to change a lot of stuff, but in a lot of cases, in most cases, I don't really create a new version of the file. I typically will just like hide some of the objects and then rename the stuff. And but if you're doing a lot of different lighting for different options, then you might just want to go ahead and create a whole new project. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Does anyone that's still watching have anything they want to see or any questions or anything like that? I kind of just went ham today and went into this design and just kind of kept talking, so I'm sorry. But yeah, open to definitely answering any questions, helping anyone out. I don't know who's still watching at this point. I don't know why that thing always goes to that side. Oh, I was gonna build a room, custom room, but I didn't get to that. We ended up just kind of focusing on doing like a scenery design today. So maybe probably not next week, but the following week I can do more of a custom room. When you zoom out to make a wide angle lens, does the animation from the saved view to saved view adjust the FOV? Yes, it does. Let me show you actually. I think I understand what you're saying. So I'm going to turn these shadows off just because it's going to slow things down. But so I think let me make an example here. Let me remove this. Let me remove the middle one, I guess, because I think maybe it'll be more noticeable. Oh, hold on. So it's going to go from the. So I was going to start at the first one, then go to the second one, and down the line. So you kind of have to organize them that way. But let's say I end. I'll hit 1 on my keyboard to center it, and then I'll end with like a wide angle look, but like up close, I guess. And then I'll save that, and let's just see what happens here. So I've got this view, and that view. Yeah. It might not be super noticeable. Actually, what will be really noticeable, let's do this, sorry. I'm just going to delete all these. What'll be noticeable is if I go from like non-wide angle to a wide angle with the same thing. So let's try this. This might look weird, I don't know. All right, and then I'm just gonna do the side view with the normal lens. All right, let's see what that does. Yeah, feels a little trippy, but it does. Does that answer your question though? It does change it like changes the lens, and it transitions the lens, I guess the animation does. Okay, perfect. And then with I'm sure you guys probably already, or some of you probably already have seen some of this, but if you add like certain gobos to your lights, they will give more of like a separated haze to. Let's see if I can make that more noticeable. Oops. So it's, you know, it's not like perfect, but the haze from this compared to, let's say if we do like a full no gobo is just going to be a full on haze. But if you use a smaller gobo, you're going to get kind of those rays smaller rays there. So that will affect that too. All right, well, thank you guys a ton for watching. I hope this was helpful. I always like doing this, especially when we get to the end and it's like, oh, what we made was pretty cool. So, and I think I even usually learn something every time too, usually some bug that I didn't know about or something. But yeah, thanks a bunch for the questions. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. I say you guys, I don't know if anyone else is in here, so let's go with that. But yeah, hopefully everyone has a good weekend. And, you know, as you're using the program, hit me up. The chat button is usually me right now. So I'm always there to help through things. And also, if anyone that's still on right now, I know there's probably not many people at all, but if anyone wants to do a user testing session with me, I'd really greatly appreciate that help. I do provide compensation for that, but I'm really looking for some user testing feedback right now. So it's basically like we just get on a call, you use the tool for like an hour, we ask some questions and kind of go through things to figure out where what things we need to fix, or just new ideas to make things better, all that sort of stuff. So I've kind of found that to be the best way to get to help like improve things better, rather than us just trying to guess, on what to do next and all that sort of thing. So if anyone wants to do that at any point, just let me know. Just send me an email or message me somehow, and we'll definitely be happy to do that. So yeah, Tim, I'll send you an email. We can schedule that. That'd be great. All right. I'm going to head out, and thank you guys again for watching.